Chapter 2387, Life is Cheap. Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavin and Rykov. Translation checker, Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. As her words fell, several miserable screams suddenly rang out. The faces of Yu Ping and the others changed as they turned their heads to see a few cultivators falling on their sides, faces blue and foaming at the mouth. Their vitality had been lost in the blink of an eye. Snakes, snakes everywhere, someone shouted in terror. The deck was crawling with a dense pile of snakes of all sizes and varieties. The air was immediately filled with a sickening aura, clearly formed from snake venom, causing a person to get dizzy when they inhaled it. A strange sound emerged as Shilan put a jade-white hand by her lips and whistled lightly. Seemingly having received an order, the venomous snakes jumped up from the ground and shot towards Yu Ping and the others like arrows. A few weaker cultivators had become dizzy from the snake venom and did not manage to dodge it in time, getting bitten. Then, in less than 10 breaths, the cultivators that were bitten fell straight to the deck, dead. Seeing that Shilan had already begun to move, Man Kuai also roared and summoned a huge bronze hammer that was taller than himself, sweeping it forward. The cultivators of the city lord's mansion were already flustered from the snake venom, so they instinctively took to the skies in an attempt to get away from the venomous snakes on the ground. Right at that instant, Man Kuai's hammer swept the air, and a powerful aura and source chi burst forth. The vortex of power that was stirred up by the giant hammer seemed to have endless suction power, voiding the ability to move of the cultivators close to it. Hong. A muffled sound came out as several of the city lord's mansion's cultivators were smashed, leaving no trace of body or bones. Before the ones who were lucky enough to survive even had the chance to breathe, Sangda, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly snorted and, in his hand, an array flag appeared out of thin air. He tossed this flag towards a certain direction in the empty air, and in a moment, the glow of a spirit array spread across this ship. Not only was the entire ship wrapped up tight by this spirit array, it also seemed to lock the surrounding space. The cultivators that flew to the sky all fell to the ground amidst cries of fear. Chi 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 chi. Chen Fai's body was filled with killing intent. With a long sword in hand, he swept into the crowd like a breeze and moved about erratically, long sword striking out again and again, cutting down a person with each strike while his enemies fell to the ground one by one, screaming. How dare you make a move against this king? Yu Ping was no longer calm like before, his hair was disheveled and his body was covered in blood. Even though he was not killed during the previous round of sneak attacks, he was undoubtedly injured. And, of the 15 cultivators from the city lord's mansion who came with him, only 3 were left, in the blink of an eye. All 3 were third-order Dao Source realm cultivators, but even though they were in the same realm, Yu Ping was the strongest out of them. Even though the 3 of them were in a miserable state, they still had each other's backs and constantly fought against the attacks coming in from all directions. Even with that, they were only barely holding onto their positions. Shilan and the others were unable to advance, so they immediately toned down the intensity of their attacks so that Yu Ping wouldn't be forced into a corner and take desperate action. On the other side, when the cultivators saw the big fight erupting from the city lord's mansion's ship, and that their side was sustaining massive losses, all of them were scared pale and felt so dumbfounded that they did not immediately escape. Little brat, you actually dare to slack off? Shilan shouted hysterically at Yang Kai as if she just made a terrifying discovery. Everyone moved during the fight just now, but not Yang Kai. He was just standing there as if he was enjoying the show. Yang Kai was clearly the cause of the incident today. If not for the past grievances between him and Yu Ping, it was impossible for the latter to chase him all the way out here, leading to this fight. But even though all of them made moves, the culprit responsible, Yang Kai, was indifferent. How could Shilan not be furious at this? Chen Fei and Man Kuai did not say anything, but they both looked unhappy. Who said I'm slacking off? Yang Kai retorted repugnantly as he snorted, are your dog eyes blind? I'm holding up the rear for you. Shilan was furious. She found this little brat called Yang Kai was simply abominable. He had never given her any face since he got onto this ship, as if he had some deep grudge with her. Now he even dared to lie with his eyes wide open. He was clearly just being lazy and slacking off, and the excuse he gave was so ridiculous it went beyond shameless. She gritted her teeth and swore in her heart that she would show Yang Kai what the consequences of offending a woman were. That doesn't matter, we need you right now. I'm passing those 3 over to you. Sangdu also seemed dissatisfied with Yang Kai's slacking attitude and said in a cold voice. What about those people over there? Yang Kai pointed towards the cultivators on the city lord's mansion's sea ship. Who knows if those cultivators were inexperienced or just scared out of their wits, but they didn't even think of running away until Yang Kai pointed at them. Only then did they begin panicking and scrambling away. Leave these guys to this old master. Just take care of Yu Leping and the others. Sang De huffed and leapt up from the boat like the peng stretching its wings imposingly, chasing after the cultivators. None of the escapees had high cultivation, so they were just left behind to watch over the ship. Right now, even if they split up and fled, they would not be able to escape Sang De's pursuit. Death would just be a matter of time. Smelly brat, still not moving. When she saw that Yang Kai was still standing there without any intention of moving, she couldn't help but urge him. Even though she, Chen Fei, and Man Kuai's combined efforts were trapping Yu Leping in place, their three enemies weren't weak and were able to defend themselves completely with mutual cooperation. A long night is fraught with dreams, Brother Yang. Hurry up and attack. Chen Fei also urged him impatiently. Brother Yang, is it? A few days ago, this Yu had eyes but failed to see, offending Brother Yang. I hope Brother Yang will spare me this time, and in return, I, Yu Leping, will offer a generous reward. When Yu Leping saw Yang Kai looking over at him, his face paled and he hurriedly begged for mercy. If he had known that his life would be in danger during this trip, then how could he have acted so rashly? Wouldn't it be fine if he just stayed on Clear Sky Island? There he could enjoy his authority and nobody would dare to slight him. But he didn't expect that he, whose words held so much power on Clear Sky Island, would be nothing out at sea. Shilan and the other two weren't easy customers to deal with and he knew that begging them was useless, so he could only turn to Yang Kai for help. I have 1,000,000 source crystals, I can give them all to Brother Yang. Please, spare me, Brother Yang. Yu Leping seemed to have figured out that he could not win someone over with empty promises, so he quickly brought out a real offer. 1,000,000 source crystals. Upon hearing this, Shilan and the others were all seeing red. Even though they were renowned on Clear Sky Island and had great power, their hard-earned source crystals were barely enough for their own use and they had no balance for anything else. When they heard that Yu Leping actually had 1,000,000 source crystals, they instantly became like hungry wolves who have found fresh meat, unable to tear their eyes away. If they could get this 1,000,000 source crystals, they would be rich. Considering all this, Shilan quickly made eyes at Yang Kai, indicating for him to agree to it politely but insincerely. They could think about what to do after they get their hands on the source crystals. Yang Kai ignored it and glared at Yu Leping in contempt. You think a meager 1,000,000 source crystals is going to buy your life? Meager. When Shilan and the others heard this, all their faces went dark. He calls 1,000,000 source crystals meager. Does this brat have no concept of numbers? Yu Leping cried out, Brother Yang, my life is cheap. I can tell, you're a cheap bastard. Yang Kai scoffed. Yu Leping said, Brother Yang, please have mercy and spare me. How can people dare to not lower their heads under the eaves? Even though he knew there was little hope, Yu Leping still couldn't give up on finding that one last thread of hope. Yang Kai laughed coldly and turned to the two cultivators around Yu Leping. Do you want to live or do you want to die? The two cultivators who were already shaking with fear from the beating had no idea when their defenses would be broken through. So, when they heard Yang Kai's words, they quickly nodded their heads, live. We want to live. From what they heard of Yang Kai's words, it seemed they still had a way out. If you want to live, then help me kill him. Yang Kai pointed a hand at Yu Leping and said, I have a grudge with this man, not with any of you. So, as long as you help me kill him, I won't kill you. At these words, Yu Leping's face changed. On the other hand, the expressions of the city lord's mansion's cultivators seemed to be fluctuating, as if they were considering the gains and losses of each option. Yu Leping shouted, don't listen to him. He's just trying to split us up. If this Yu dies, they will definitely not spare you. As he spoke, he turned his head to glare at Yang Kai and shouted, you're so sinister. Knowing that Yang Kai would never let him go, Yu Leping couldn't be bothered to beg him for mercy anymore. The two cultivators from the city lord's mansion were frowning. There was no way they were oblivious to the fact that Yang Kai was trying to sow discord between them, but at the point of life and death, Yang Kai's offer still appealed to them. The two of you can't be. When Yu Leping saw their reactions, he was mortified. Yang Kai's provocation worked on the two of them. In that case, how could he still live? At that thought, Yu Leping made a long whistle and power gathered in his body. His entire person sprang up like an arrow and shot straight towards the sky in an attempt to escape from here. Yu Leping, you. The faces of two cultivators who were left behind changed. The reason they were able to stay alive so far was due to them joining forces to defend themselves. Secondly, it was also because Lan and the others did not dare to push too hard that they were barely able to maintain a balance. But now, Yu Leping actually took the initiative to abandon him after his emotions were shaken, creating a huge crack in their defenses. Man Kuai's huge hammer swept over and the venomous snakes swarmed the two remaining cultivators, swallowing him up in the blink of an eye. Yu Leping did not manage to reach even 5 meters high before he fell down miserably. The barrier surrounding the ship seemed to be of an extremely high level and was not something he could break through. Chen Fei, who had long been prepared, arrived with his sword glowing fiercely while emitting a strong killing intent, slashing it down on Yu Leping directly.